Happy Arsenal means happy Wrighty. What's going on?
Well, what's happened is that from the start of the season, when you look at the start of the season, when the defence what they have now, none of them you didn't have Tomiyasu. Ben White played, but he weren't quite right. No Gabriel, you know.
Benjamin White.
Benjamin White, yeah. I think that Thomas Partey was missing. I remember the first game of the season. Lacazette and Aubameyang went down with an illness, and it just started pretty poorly. But he just didn't have a team in place to do what he wanted to do. And now you look at the players he has now. You know, Ramsdale is a phenomenon for Arsenal and what he's done. And I'm really pleased that it's turning out like it has for him, because when we signed him for the 30 million, people were teasing us, saying, how can you sign a goalkeeper that's gone down twice? But what I see is a goalkeeper that brings so much to the team, not just he's brilliant goalkeeping at the moment, but his attitude and the fact that he is that chest beating, getting that team going, because I think there's a lot of introverted players at Arsenal. And he's somebody that, you know what I mean, he keeps Arsenal going. This was a fantastic game for Arsenal. You know, it kind of like got us going in the way that how we're trying to play out from the back. You see it now with Ben White. You're seeing what we're doing with Thomas Partey. We kind of seem to be moving on from a Granit Xhaka with Sambi Lokonga and the way we're playing. It seems to be a lot more solid with a 4-4-2. It seems to suit Saka a lot better as well. You know, and it just seems with Thomas Partey and Sambi Lokonga in there, it just feels solid. You've got Lacazette, who's now playing in a number 10 instead of maybe Martin Odegaard, and he's doing well. So you've got that kind of dynamic where he's coming in done well as well. So, you know, there's a lot of things happening what weren't happening at the start of the season, where they seem to be getting into the flow of it now. And because they're being so continuous with the same team, it seems like they're building something. No Europe, it must help.
Well, I mean, whatever about what they've done in the few months since, I think Arteta deserves real credit, because that situation could really have tailspun. I mean, the season started so badly. There was talk about kind of whether he had so many games until he was actually under pressure. And even if the board were always going to stay strong, they must have at least been considering the kind of situation. Yeah. And it was such a bad start to the season, following on from how erratic a lot of last year was. Although, wasn't there a stat actually that since Christmas last season, they've actually been one of the best performing sides in the Premier League. So you can see kind of a longer term effect.
And this is, you're right, that sort of short run of poor games at the start of the season coloured people's perceptions as to how this season might have gone. Whereas maybe if you looked at the bigger picture, the signs were pointing towards what we've seen across the last 8 games.
And given that he is a young manager, and this is his first job, unlike Gerrard actually, there was no guarantees there. So for him to kind of impose that personality and impose a structure on the team again is really impressive.
I think that when he came out with that statement, remember Miggy, where he said that was the best. I think it was after the City game, because that was a game where you really started to worry. Kels, when you watched it, you think to yourself, my gosh, these players. It wasn't even the performance was so poor that you start to question, are these players behind him? And I think after that game, when we lost 5-0. He had the break, and he came out with that statement about that has been the best 10 days of my football career. So something must have happened where and you've seen with the results after that, something's happened where those players came together, and what we saw is that those players are fighting for him. Because since then, everything seems to have changed. And then you have to throw into that as well, Kels, that he's got all of these signings, what he's made, is being involved in that. So even if there was something to do with a mutiny, the new players were strong enough and playing well enough once they did come in to kind of fight anything off. But what we are seeing is a team that are very much together.
And it helps as well, that defensive improvement really helps. It can't just be down to Aaron Ramsdale, although his numbers are fantastic. The whole performance, the whole unit, as you were saying earlier, has to be right.
Yeah, you know, and I must admit, the first 3 games, you know, I was loving life. Not so much now. No, you're right. I think the whole team harder, you know, from the front. You're looking at Aubameyang and Lacazette. They seem to be pressing with a lot more intensity, which helps the whole team really. But yeah, you know, going back to Arteta, you know, he had a tough time after the Man City game. He looked almost finished. You know, you could see on his face he looked lost, but you know, somewhere along the line, he's got them galvanized again, or galvanised again, and you know. But it started with 1-0 victories after that. So again, it goes back to the defence and making sure that you're tough and solid and hard to beat again. they got 1-0 victories, started to build a bit of confidence, and we've seen them take that on. So,
but what you see as well, Leds, is with the goalkeeper, what the goalie gives us. We can bypass people, especially with Lacazette playing. You can bypass people if there is a press, and even if there is a press, you're seeing now someone like Ben Wright, who again we were ridiculed for paying the money for him, but that's the player that that Arteta wanted, because not only can Ben Wright pass the ball into those areas, but now we're seeing he'll run the ball through those areas as well. So you can break lines with a centre-half that's confident enough to do that. People like Thomas Partey will break lines with what he's doing. So when you've got a goalkeeper who can do that, then you get the ball into an area where we're now able to turn, because Lacazette will then link the play, and then you can start getting Saka away, getting Emile Smith-Rowe away, and Aubameyang.
Actually, given Ramsdale's effect, it should be noted as well that was a signing that Arteta really pushed for. And it would have been easy to let that slide, given they had Leno there. Yeah. Leno had been a signing that had been kind of a symbol of the new structure from 2 years ago, post-Wenger.
Yeah.
But Arteta really pushed for Ramsdale because he saw how important he could be for what the team wants to do.
I think that they must be even more surprised with what he brings to that dressing room. I'm telling you, you could see it when he's playing. When anybody's in and around.
You see him singing along with the crowd chant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And what you do see is how the players just continually come round him, and he's a rallier. And it's something that Arsenal have needed, because people constantly talk about Arsenal when it weren't going well, is no leaders, no characters in the dressing room. They are a very introverted kind of group of players, and he seems to be bringing out the best in those players. You know, I'd love the fact that, like, even with Benjamin White, when he's come out and he says, listen, I don't watch much football, I just play football. I love the fact that he's brave enough and strong enough to come out and admit that, because he can deal with what comes with that. But when you look at his performances next to Gabriel, it's very solid with the goalkeeper. It's a very good team of them three are very solid, and they're footballing centre halves into Thomas Partey, into Sambi Lokonga. You know, and now Arsenal are looking like the structure and the way the team's playing. You could see if it has to go long, they'll do that. But like if a defender has to get and run it out of play, run it into the midfield and then go from there. We saw Ben White setting up Emile Smith-Rowe's goal the other day. Yeah. So we're looking at a team now that seems a lot of confidence. The worry, Kels, is there is no Europe, and there's players that probably won't play as regularly as they would want to, because there's no football matches to put them in. That might be a worry, but as time goes by, hopefully everybody will come together, and when they get their chance, like Maitland-Niles, they'll take it. Yeah.
The one counterpoint, I suppose, is, because I do generally obviously feel we're starting to see the positive effects of Arteta, but one thing you'd see, I suppose, maybe this has been a forgiving run, and there's maybe a little bit of fragility about it, that if they play the kind of wrong team now at the wrong time, it could come crashing down again.
Liverpool's next.
Liverpool's next. We saw with Brighton, like I mentioned, Brighton, they're so organised, they're so well coached by Graham Potter, and we saw what that done with Arsenal. What else we see with Arsenal is that they're starting games very quickly. Okay, yeah. And when they score in that time, yes, they're fine, but then there's a period in the game, what we saw in that Leicester game with Aaron Ramsdale saving Arsenal, is that Arsenal kind of like, they feel like they're retreating. And the goalkeeper kind of kept us in that game. Then we moved again and kicked on again. But that's the worry, is how we manage the game if we don't score early. And when you're coming up against a Liverpool, and like we did with Brighton were so good that those are the problems that he has to solve now. And with the Liverpool game coming up, it's a perfect barometer to see exactly where they are.
Given how much has been reported about Arsenal's young players, about Arteta's new signings, how interesting was it to hear Aubameyang talking about the conversation that he had with Arteta about the captaincy?
I think it was interesting because Arteta's obviously recognised something in the way he was playing, or maybe the way his demeanour around the training ground, to actually ask him are you okay with the captaincy? Is it weighing too heavy on you? And what was really good to hear is that he said no, he wanted the responsibility, because I think that what's happening there is that Arteta seems to me, like you just saying there, Kels, while it was on there, is that he seems to have won him over. I don't think he ever lost him. I just think that what was happening with Aubameyang, especially in the times when we didn't have the players that I mentioned earlier, was making the team get up the pitch quicker. He had to do a lot more running in the direction. You don't want to see him running in, because we're talking about one of our oldest players. I think the other day it was him and Lacazette, and the next oldest player was 24, Maitland-Niles. So you don't want your oldest, most experienced and your best goal scorer tracking that way. So I think that was happening for quite a bit, and he wasn't happy with it. You could see he weren't happy with it. But now he's got so much creativity behind him. You're seeing him making the runs that we know he's famous for, because we can get the ball in there to him now. And I think that's what the manager maybe had to have the words with him to talk about, Kels, and just say to him, listen, I'll get it back, I'll get it right for you, but are you ready to still lead if this can happen? And he said, yeah, and it's really good to see. Just
on that as well, I mean, in terms of kind of the creativity, there was a point last season, and maybe at the start of this season, when it wasn't going so well for Arteta, and I think one of the biggest criticisms would have been basically that it looked like everything they tried to do in attack was too prescribed, like it was too structured.
Yes.
Whereas now you're actually seeing a kind of, you know,
a little bit more chaos, man. A little bit more just off the cuff.
Free, which obviously suits kind of the way Aubameyang plays as well.
And it suits the way Saka plays, suits the way Emile Smith-Rowe plays. Yeah. You need to get those players to be able to say, like, hopefully Pepe is somebody that can maybe thrive if he gets the opportunity. Because like I said, there's going to be players now who are not going to play as often as they maybe would like to. But you'd like to see someone like Pepe come in. Yeah. People are saying, yes, 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 and he's having a shot and then apologising. It's something that I kind of mentioned to him. I said, listen, you create as well. So there's times when you get into these situations, have a shot, get more shots in games. And like now he's doing it, and he's scoring goals, and we need goals from other avenues.
Did this?
But probably somewhere along the line, Kels, because remember, I went to school with his brother, so even just him touching me when he was a kid made Emile Smith-Rowe come out and be what he is. No, in all seriousness, it's something that he was really worried about. I want to score more goals, and he was getting into positions, but he was missing. I said, just keep getting in there, and it's just happening now.
He scored more goals already this season than he did last season.
Yeah, he's upped everything.
He must have been working on. On
he's upped everything. He's upped everything. More shots in games, getting himself in the box more, and that is where you'll score more goals.
Yeah, he's just been a fantastic player to watch, and to watch the development of him as well.
Yeah, he is, you know, and he plays with a maturity. You know, I'm not sure how old is he? No.
He's 21 now.
21, but you know, he seems so much older. You know, the way he plays the game. But yeah, tremendous player, and as Wright said, you know, scoring goals is the next part of his game to take him to the next level. You know, if he wants to be one of the best players in that position, got to score goals.
Again, that's a remarkable thing that you say. I mean, you'd almost forget he's 21 because the way he's taken on the responsibility on himself and Saka.
And the thing is, he himself said, "I want the number 10."
Yeah.
You see, now people... I remember when Dennis Bergkamp came, Paul Merson handed him the number 10. He said, yeah, you can have it, because it means so much. And for him to take it off of the fact that a legend like Dennis Bergkamp had it, that's, again, coming through the academy, that's the confidence and the drive and the determination he has, because he's taken the responsibility of that shirt. People say, wait, it's only a shirt, it's only a number. No, if you've got that shirt and you are not performing, that weighs heavy on you. But he was willing to take that responsibility, and now we're seeing him thrive with that. He's thriving.
I think it's really interesting when you talk about the confidence that he has, because when he's interviewed, he is very clearly a 21-year-old kid. Like, there's a real difference between how he looks when he's on a pitch and how he looks outside of that situation.
But Kels, it's like you see players like they change when they get onto the pitch. In the way they demean it, it's because he's very shy. But then the real person, the talent comes out, and it's on the pitch where he's like, he's not afraid of anything.
He feels at home, don't he?
Yeah, that's where you feel at home. That's where you feel like, this is where I can express myself. Because obviously, when you speak to him, when you see him, he's so shy, so shy. But when he gets on the pitch, that's where Emile Smith-Rowe comes to life, because that's where he's at his best. That's where he feels he's most confident.
You picked up on that point. Is that how you felt, that when you went out onto the pitch, that was you at home?
Yeah, without a doubt. And a lot of players are like that. You know, we like our feet to do the talking for us, you know, rather than the talking ourselves. But you know, as I say, I think for him, he's a natural player. You know, so I think about someone like a Gascoigne. You just throw a ball at them and let them go, and they just play. You know, and that's why he's done so well, being a young kid, not feeling the pressure of wearing a number 10. It's because he's a natural player who just wants to play. And when he plays, that's when he's at his best.
Got himself a chef in as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, but these are the things I think that... And it feeds down from someone like Cristiano Ronaldo.
Literally feeds down.
Yes, literally. Because what these young guys are seeing is that the guys at the very top, what they're doing is that they're investing in themselves, in what they bring around themselves, whether it's the chef, the PT, the house, the stuff in the house, the pools, everything what they can afford to make themselves better, last longer. They're doing that, and you have to say this is the thing.
And they're doing it from earlier.
Yeah.
This was something that players would do towards the end of their career to try and prolong it. They start there.
When you've got them now doing, they finish the game and they do the ice baths, and they do the ice baths on a Sunday. They relax. They relax more. They're doing all the things that is gearing them to be the best that they can be once they get there on a Saturday. And it's what when Wenger came. Yeah. It was the early days of it. It's every single thing you're doing for your body is for you to perform at your very best on the Saturday. And I think that's now fed into the players, and players are doing it. They're doing it now.
Just on that, actually, I interviewed Christoph Adger from Brentford 2 weeks ago, and he said that exactly. He said, being a footballer now, a 24/7 job, because it's training games, but also on top of that, it's all of the work you have to do around it, and even not just nutrition and looking after yourself, but also the actual research in terms of like tactical, which you can imagine Arteta is well on top of as well, given how structured they are.
But the thing is that I remember when Wenger came and we had to do all the stuff we was doing with the nutrition and all the vitamins.
Due to win.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. I remember because I shared rooms with Dennis, and I said, I can't wait till we get back home so I can eat some food, some nice. And he said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, I just eat what my other stuff, the normal stuff. He says, I eat this all the time. I do this all the time. He says, like, what we have for breakfast when we're with Wenger, what we have for lunch and what we have for dinner, I do that at home as well. I was like that. I was like, do you? He said, yes. And he was deadly serious.
Did you cry?
I was devastated because I hated the food because it was so bland. But then when I went home, I started to have to do the same things because I get it now. If you're going to do it, you have to. It's 24 hours, like you're saying.
What was the worst thing you actually had to give up when Wenger came in?
Well, we had to. Anything to do with sugar was gone. Wow. Anything. Tea. We couldn't have tea. You know, tea is something that you just have. It's just you just have it. Any sugar, no chocolate, no nothing. There's no sweet stuff.
Even tea without sugar in it?
No tea. You can only have water with Wenger, especially when we're in the match situation. And we had to walk with water all the time. He said, you don't drink water when you're thirsty, you drink water continually. And it's something that you kind of get used to, but he was right. He was right. And it was tough for the first few months for people. But then you saw the run where Arsenal went on to win in '98. 10 games unbeaten. We were literally like robots. It was like we were so strong.
And it's all down to eating bland food.
Eating bland food. Eating bland food.
The way forward.
You know what I mean? A black man with a food with no seasoning. It was like, what is going on here?
Winning adds the flavour.
Exactly.
And we're going to leave it on that one. That's a great line to leave it on. Winning adds the flavour.
What a huge contribution Jurgen Klopp has made, not just to Liverpool, but to English football over the last half dozen years or so. Just one defeat this season. That was the other day, the last game at West Ham. But look at that. 17 matches, 49 goals. It's give or take 3 goals a game. I would argue, Don, your old team, whether you think they're going to win the league or not, people can debate at home. I would argue they're probably the most exciting team to watch at the moment.
When you look at that graphic there, Mark, it bugs you if you're a Liverpool fan. 9 clean sheets. Out of 17, goals conceded 16, but 49 goals.
Yeah, so they're winning basically they're winning 3-1 every game is what that graphic says. Really.
Or drawing 3-3.
Oh yeah,
like the Brentford game. They're back.
Yeah,
officially they're back. And we all know the reasons why. When you take all the midfield players out of that Liverpool team that function so heavily on people that close people down, you stick them as centre-halves, and the Van Dijk injury, the signing of Konate, Matip's now back. It pushes the full-backs higher up the pitch where they want to be because they get their assists. And the midfield boys, because they're playing closer to the halfway line and they're ratting around on the halfway line, they can bang it into Salah, who's now going 1v1 on the right-hand side instead of being on the halfway line 50 yards away from goal, and Mane's doing the same. And now you've got competition up front between Jota and Firmino. You do feel as though Liverpool are back. They're not flawless. As we've seen, they've conceded quite a few goals, Brentford and West Ham, case in point, but you do watch them now and you think they're so close to being back.
But they've kind of gone through... that man there sort of gone through a process, hasn't he? And he's figured out where the weak links are and who were the weak links and who do we keep and who do we bring in, and he's actually just brought in players to go, right, we're weak there at centre-half, let's get this in, get him in and you just do that bit. And he's made it look very simple because he's kept it really simple.
Yeah.
He's got You know, Robertson on the left and Trent on the right. They work. Tsimikas has done great.
He's trying to nick
He's
the
done
spot,
great.
isn't
He's
it?
done really good. But, you know...
I would suggest their only frustration for Liverpool is that having won 5-0 at Old Trafford, they've only taken 1 point from the next 2 games. And let's be honest, you play Brighton at home and West Ham away, and you're Liverpool, you want to win the league, you're thinking, well, obviously you're hoping 6. You're thinking 4 minimum, aren't you?
You need to get 4.
So, all I'm saying is it's so competitive with City and Chelsea and Liverpool that will be a slight sense of frustration that they can't actually afford to do that. They want to win the league.
I mean, they put so much into qualifying for the Champions League, which they've done already. And they had 7 games inside 22 days, which a lot of the Champions League...
So they're 2 up here. You did this game, didn't you? They were 2 up at this stage.
He meant that, Don. He meant it.
He meant it, yeah.
Don, he meant it.
All right, I'll give you it. And by the end, by the way, 2-2 didn't do Brighton any justice because they should have won the game.
Yeah.
Brighton were fantastic. Having said that, commentating on the game, Liverpool should have been 5 up at half-time. Yeah. So in the end, everything sort of balanced out. Yeah. It was quite startling how Liverpool collapsed in the last 20 minutes. And they had no answer whatsoever.
Alisson had a go at the referee still this week on his Instagram. It's not going to change our mind, is it?
Fine. Totally fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a good goal.
Still a goal.
The 6-yard box is yours, sir. Use it. Command it.
Van Dijk goes ballistic at Matip because Matip should have went with the runner.
And then Alisson compounded his rather bad day by misjudging the flight of that
It was the game, Mark, I was watching with a West Ham pal of mine. And the game was at 1-1 and he went, what do you think? And I had obviously both heads on, and I said, if I was Liverpool, I would walk away now
with 1-1.
Oh,
yeah.
Because Liverpool look shattered. And Thiago come off the bench, and he needs to get going because when Liverpool signed Thiago from Bayern, I thought, what a signing that's going to be. That's going to take Liverpool into the City style of play. When you're struggling to break someone down, he's going to be the man. He's not done it yet. He's done it in flashes.
But he has been injured and he hasn't had a run of games. Has he had 10, 12 games? No. That's when you know. I think I still think that he's got a massive part to play. I'm with you. I think he's a really good player. Really good player.
You know who is a really good player?
Go on.
Mo Salah. A really, 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 really good player.
He's not bad, you know. He's scored a couple of... If he could work on his finishing, he might have a career.
I mean, he's even better than ever, isn't he? It would seem. It feels like.
More confident than ever. He's just doing... All this is natural. Yeah. He's not having to try. He's not being told where to go, what position to stand in.
Have a word.
Look at this here.
Have a word with this. Have a word. These are world-class players. These are sitting down.
Who's it against? Is this Doncaster they're playing against?
And then this one's even better, isn't it?
This one here. Look at that.
I mean, no, we just went for City because they're City rather than Watford, didn't we?
And it's a bigger game.
And it's a bigger game, and it was on the line.
But you're splitting hairs.
Oh yeah, you are.
You know.
Yeah,
but he's back though, isn't he, Salah?
Oh.
He is. Look at that ball from
Jordan.
What
a pass from Henderson that is, by the way.
But this is where, like I said before, when you analyse Liverpool, when there was no fans in the stadium and Liverpool was struggling massively, Mo Salah wasn't in these positions. Mo Salah was on the halfway line.
Yeah.
And teams were doubling up on him. You're saying,
as you say, because the centre halves were injured and the midfielders had to go back. The whole team dropped back, didn't they?
Well, when you think about Man City and you go Man City, and they go ticky-taka goal after about 20 passes. Jordan Henderson played 1 pass into Salah and he scores. That's Liverpool's midfield.
That's not bad, is it?
Look at that, involved in a goal every hour. Wow.
He's just a genius.
He really...
He is an absolute
is he the best?
genius.
We've said before he's the best player in the world at the moment.
Right now, yes. Can't agree with that at all.
Can't think anybody better.
Not with what he's doing. Not with what he's doing. And the quality... He's doing against the best in the world as well, making him look City.
Now, listen, Bayern Munich fans might throw Lewandowski.
It's the only one I was thinking of, but I still would go with
Real
him.
Madrid might have a little hand up in the air, but I'm with you guys. I think Mo Salah. And I can't believe, and I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but at some point Liverpool have got to get him and his agent in and get that contract signed.
Signed again,
Sharpish.
yes.
I think the agent's probably writing it right now. If I was Salah's agent, I'd be writing it.
And they'd believe
do you think as he was writing it against Man City, he went 300... 350, and then he done it against Watford and he went 400. It's
Call it 4.
ridiculous. The numbers just going crazy.
So we've got the Africa Cup of Nations Championship starting in January. So as things stand, Salah and Mane are out of the running for 4 Premier League games. As things stand, there's always a bit of trading that goes on, which is completely fine, and you know, everyone, it's agreed between country and club. But as it stands, 4 Premier League games, 3 of them are away actually, 2 away ones at Chelsea and Leicester. So they will want to do as much negotiating as they can, Liverpool.
Chelsea and Liverpool might lean on to whichever FA it is to try and keep Mendy for Chelsea, and Salah and Mane for Liverpool.
This is not to say they miss games, it just misses the camp. This is a bit of the camp.
Yeah, and for us, just talking about it, and everything's going to change, like you said, in this conjecture. But at least it gives them, after that Chelsea game, if both parties agreed and the FA's agreed, that they've then got 7 days before, I think it's Senegal and Egypt's first game in the African Cup of Nations. So it gives them that sort of week of rest.
It's just
if they don't get them, Liverpool. That's going to hinder them massively.
It's just disruption, isn't it, for Klopp and
taking the best.
It's just disruption. That's all it is. And how do you deal with that disruption?
But
you've been doing so well.
And whoever you think's their best players, the most important players. Liverpool are losing 2 of their most important players.
Agreed.
Mane and Salah are huge. I mean, they all know it, and sometimes managers go, "Well, when you sign an African player, this is going to happen every other year."
Happen,
You know that,
and you have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it.
You get a squad of players that are going to play 2 or 3 games for you while those guys are away.
I might be wrong, but I'm sure a couple of years ago, didn't the African Cup of Nations move to a summer?
Yeah, they wanted it to, obviously, in keeping with the World Cup and the Euros, and it, with COVID and everything, has slightly thrown a spanner in the works. So you have a month of, let's just say, for argument's sake, you have a month of Firmino, Jota, and Origi.
Yeah.
That's good, but it's not the same ring, quite clearly. No. It's not the same terror in the defence of the opposition.
You've got to play Leicester and Chelsea.
No.
That's the 2 games. That's high standard stuff.
Does this underline maybe what I think even a lot of Liverpool fans think, which is Liverpool are an outstanding team, but do they quite have the depth of City and Chelsea when it comes to winning the league?
So, Origi, who was it?
Jota.
Firmino.
Yeah.
So you got those 3 up top.
Yes.
Straight away now, if I'm City and Chelsea, I'm going bam, straight up the pitch. You haven't got that pacing behind, so therefore, as a defender, I'm thinking, right, get higher up the pitch because they haven't got the lightning pace of Salah and Mane.
Yeah.
So therefore, you've changed the way that you have to play now. Liverpool will have to play more passes inside their own half in order to get up the pitch, rather than the pitch being massive. So that's a massive change for Liverpool.
It might be a different style from Liverpool.
Correct.
It might be Thiago then stepping up when he's fit. Don't think they lose. Do they lose Naby Keita? Not sure. They do. So they lose Naby Keita, another one that they might lose. So it could have lent on a different sort of style and more bodies in the middle of the park. But if you saying about Liverpool's lack of depth,
comparative.
City.
Comparative to City and Chelsea.
But then if I threw it back at you, who's City's best 2 players, and who are 2 players you might say? It could be anyone. You could say Ruben Diaz and Phil Foden if you want. If they lost those 2, that's going to hurt them. If you lost a couple of Chelsea's, if you lost, I'd say Andreas Christensen and Rudiger, for example, that's going to hurt them. So it's going to hurt if you lose big players.
I think it's just
nothing's going to hurt like Liverpool.
Yeah, they've got enough quality. All those teams and squads, there's enough there.
They're the biggest losers, though, aren't they?
Oh gosh, yes. At the same time as well.
Yeah.
At the same.
And the hard thing is, if you're Liverpool, you can't just go and sign a couple of players for a month.
No one's
trying to replace
do that.
them because as a player, are you going to sign?
Particularly not that we've got a World Cup starting almost to the day this time next year. There's nobody is going to risk their place in a potential World Cup squad by going somewhere and not playing and then suddenly being out of the eye of the manager, are they? Firmino will be staying around, of course, during the African Cup of Nations. That will be absolutely critical because he's had a really good season, hasn't he? He's come back to his best.
I love him.
You know what, footballers, we absolutely love him. He's so clever. You know what he does? He's one player in that Liverpool side that does things that nobody else in that Liverpool team can do. The positions he takes up, the assists that he gets. He looks like a Brazilian footballer. Yeah. There's not many of them about.
Who they're going to miss. Who's just been so consistently good, hasn't he, since he arrived?
Always there. His runs are amazing.
And I think as well, Mark, it's probably something that you can't really measure. But when you look at the likes of Salah and Mane and Firmino, I'd love to look at the. I'd love to see the numbers on how many games they've played with no rest for about 5 years for Liverpool. It's staggering. They've hardly had any rest whatsoever.
Because of the summer tournament.
So the summer just gone was the first time they had sort of any real serious rest, which now you're sort of reaping the benefits because it was game after game after game after game after season after season. And Mane, for his standards, he just dropped off last season.
You made a really good point about the fact that Liverpool can play higher up the pitch now. They've got their centre halves back together, and those numbers, the lower ones, show it all, don't they? They're that much closer to goal when they get the ball and in the positions they want to be.
If Liverpool now have the back four that they are happy with, Therefore, the midfield players can go into their proper positions, and that front three, whoever it may be, have got so much more area to play in. The confidence of the back four is brilliant now, I think, for Liverpool. Yeah. That's where it all starts from. It starts from Virgil, two full-backs, and whoever plays with Virgil.
Yeah. And one of those full-backs being Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, who's back.
He's back.
That's been consistently good. And it's often... It's often a sort of the fulcrum of their attacking play are these full-backs advanced up the pitch, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, they're great, aren't they?
You know, the passes, some of them that you're seeing look quite easy. They're not. You've got to put weight on the pass. You've got to put weight on Salah to say, go and hit it first time. This one for him and a pro, it's not the hardest ball in the world, but he's there. These are the skills that he does.
Oh, this is such a good friend.
When Liverpool are all over the shop at 1-0 down, and Trent does that to get you back in the game, and I'll still champion, as it stands at this present time, he's the best right back in the world. Reece James is pushing him very, very closely. But I think Trent's your man. And people will throw, well, he can't defend. He's not in the team to defend.
As a footballer,
he plays like a wing-back.
He's great
and look at his numbers.
Well, look who the top two are. That says all about the attacking threat, doesn't it?
It does.
That's what it says about the attacking threat.
By the way, not on that graphic there, but I think above him, there's only Kevin De Bruyne with more assists than Trent in the Premier League over the last, whatever it is, 18 months. So he's competing with the likes of De Bruyne's. He's competing with number 10s.
Apparently he still wants to be a right back, though. You know all this business about he's too good to play right back. Sorry, right backs around the world. He's too good to be a right back. Should play in midfield. Apparently he actually wants to be a right back.
Why? If you're the best right back in the world, why do you want to step into midfield? I mean, unless for the great of the team, you know, let's just say that month we're talking about with the African Cup of Nations, unless there's a void in the middle of the park where you can go, right, can you do me a job in there? Of course you can. Then who can come in at right back?
But before we go to the break, I just want to quickly touch on their depth, the midfield. When we watched the West Ham game, and we came in on the Monday and talked about it, you both went, they missed Wijnaldum in there. Is that an area where midfield, Harvey Elliott, brilliant start of the season, got injured, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, good reserve, but he's not quite hitting the heights when needed every week. Is that the area where maybe they might just come up short?
If there was a weakness, it would be the reserve players for those positions. Their starting 11, their midfield players that start are more than good enough. I just think when one drops out, whether it's Fabinho or Henderson, they are a little bit light in there. I'm not sure.
See, on paper, when you write it down and you go Fabinho, Jordan Henderson and Thiago, you go, what a midfield that is. Wow. If it's not Thiago, it's Naby Keita, and you go, what a midfield player that is. Midfield three, that is. So
that's it then, isn't it?
Those two that I've mentioned there, Naby Keita and Thiago, those are the players now Klopp needs to work extra hard on.
They need in the way that the rest of the midfield always is. They need consistent 8 out of 10s.
Jordan Henderson's an 8.5 out of 10.
Oh,
every single week.
He's a
Fabinho's one of the best in the world in his position. 5 or 6 players across Europe that are as good as him.
But Thiago and Keita have not been 8 out of 10 every time. That's the truth, have they?
No.
And that's why we then go, oh, they missed Wijnaldum. Why did they let him go?
I will always
because he was consistent. And he never missed a day's training.
No. And I think I will always protect a player if he's not getting games. Wijnaldum got game after game after game. So therefore, we've seen the best of him. We're not seeing Keita game after game, and we definitely haven't seen Thiago. So I think it's games in order to get up to standard.